Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing John Todderud, owner of Cardinal Oak Investments. He is a multifamily investor and syndicator who focuses on sourcing, underwriting, sponsoring, and capital raising for deals. He began in real estate during his software and technology career, buying multifamily real estate, first smaller properties, focusing on finding vendors to repair, improve, and manage, and then shifting his focus to partnering with other ambitious real estate investors to acquire larger properties. John is now full-time in multifamily real estate. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, George. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate the opportunity to share a few of my experiences in real estate and tech and maybe offer some insights for listeners.
Exciting. Well, I think there's a lot in your background that'll resonate with our listeners. So, John, you list your three greatest strengths as numbers, persistence, and listening. You want to pick one of those and expound on that?
Sure. I'll do the persistence part of it. The persistence, I think, is necessary for any successful endeavor, but particularly for real estate, is that you can't be swayed if you have to pass on a lot of deals. You have to look at a deal and decide, I just can't do this, and get discouraged by that whole process. I've gone through coaching, and a lot of people have, and I've talked to a lot of people who've been in coaching who have gotten very little out of it. I got a lot out of my coaching, and I could strongly recommend it if you think that you have the funds to afford it and the time to take advantage of it. I know that it's a big step, but people in coaching are often a big reason for failure through that process is persistence, that you don't think that you can do it. You're trying a few things and nothing's working. You got to get back on the horse and keep trying it again and do something and talk to people about why it isn't working and try different things. That's been the case for me. And I've even owned, applicable to properties in particular. I've had properties where the CapEx just seems to pile up, and like one thing after another, like, holy cow, where did all this stuff come from? And I had one where the tenants were telling me about issues and I was responding to them, but in this case, not fast enough. And they made a phone call to somebody in the city and say, oh, there's a problem with this property. The city came out, looked at it, and started giving me these ultimatums. And I thought, holy cow, this is earlier on, and just a rude awakening. Nothing they did wrong. These were bona fide issues. I wish I had more time for it, but you think about, whoa, should I sell this property as a distressed property? And the answer is emphatically no. Don't do that. Find the money to make the fixes. In my case, I replaced a roof. Water is the bane of our existence, of course, and so roof leaks you can't live with, of course. You got to get those fixed, and they can't keep coming into tenants' top floor units. And so we did. We fixed it, and then little by little, things got better, and my CapEx budget was blown, of course, significantly, but we got better tenants, owned it for a little while longer, got rents up, and then income valuation was more than met our targets, and we sold it, and we did really well with it. But I would have never predicted that in the middle of doing all those fixes. And that's the kind of thing you just have to keep your head on straight and know that what you're doing is the right thing. You know what to do, and you need to keep being persistent at accomplishing this.
I love talking about the speed bumps. I think that's one of the things that I look for in an operator. If someone's willing to talk about their failures and missteps, that's somebody whom I can trust if things get difficult, is going to know how to pivot and get around all that stuff. Of course, that's more like a speed bump. sounds like you really found the way to turn that around, and that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I love to talk about alternative investments. And so you've made some, I would say, maybe more exotic alternative investments. In a day and age of Shark Tank, I think everybody's heard of angel investing, or at least the concept, but you've actually made some investments. Why don't you tell us what that's like? And maybe from the standpoint of when people hear about syndication, they say, wait, my money's going to be locked up for 5 years. How does that compare to being an angel investor?
Yeah, an angel investor is more of a long shot. I'm much more comfortable investing in real estate, even if it's not my own, because I can have some influence on it. If you're in an angel investing mode, 95% of the value you bring is your funds. You're not necessarily bringing a lot of skill to a startup company unless you have a board seat or some kind of representation. That's not really what they're looking for out of you. Maybe you have some experience, and I mean, there are exceptions to this. A lot of people, a lot of angel investors have one particular area that they like to focus on, and I know you have some deep skills in a few areas. You're probably sought out after for joining a team. Sure, make an investment, but we'd love to pick your brain on these things. Most angel investors are not really in that mode, so it's not something the angel investor can reach out and make recommendations on. They may or may not even be one of the only investors. They might not have a lot of influence, and the founders are they're not necessarily in a mode of wanting the advice of somebody who invested in their company. Which I totally get. Real estate's a little different. Not that if you're a passive investor, you're not going to be able to call them up and say, you need to change your marketing. You need to start using TikTok to find your tenants. TikTok.
I like that analogy there, because I think that it's very true. I do know a couple of passive investors who became or worked towards becoming active investors through doing something just like that. And these are operators that I respect. So don't discount it. You could be a passive investor in real estate. And if you're interested in stepping up, very likely that your advice will be valued and an opportunity, a real learning opportunity. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow there. But good,
that's
great to hear about angel investing, because it is so different. I mean, your money's locked up for a longer time. It's a longer shot, like you were saying. If you get some successful exits, though, usually you're getting a very large multiple of your money.
Yes, and they say, like, a lot of angel investors they put their money into 10 startups. 8 of them completely fail. One of them, they get their money back, and one of them is a home run, a 10x or something like that. And maybe that's true. I don't know how true that is across the board. I think you expect something a little different from real estate passive investing. But to your point, it is a great point, and I share that philosophy that you're a passive investor. I mean, me as a syndicator, I love to have passive investors who have some deep skill in some area. They might be strong in social media. I've got a decent amount of social media, but I am learning a lot, and there are people who are way better at it than I am. And I would love to learn from people. Put some money into a deal that I have, and I'm gonna be calling you on the phone. I'm gonna be asking you for things, and I would ask them to reach out to me and provide me suggestions, things like that. Or if the investor is more boots on the ground in your market or something, they have potentially a lot of value they could add to your deal, even though they're not obligated to. And most of them would love to. They want to get involved. They want to know that they can see more clearly how their money's being used. So yeah, those are great points. And so you were asking about other ways that people get involved in deals and how the investors can get returns. I would point them back to the reason I got into real estate in the first place is being able to influence the investment itself, having control over it. Not necessarily that it's in my backyard, but just having a high degree of control over how that money is being spent and used.
Yeah, that control is huge. If you know what you're doing, you can definitely use that to drive some mighty returns. Well, now, before we wrap up, sometimes we give our guests the opportunity to turn the tables and ask a question. So if you'd like to do that, please go ahead.
George, one of the things that I've always been interested in both business, but especially in real estate, is tracking performance. And as you know, there are a lot of numbers we could track. And performance measurement and performance improvement starts with knowing what your performance is today. And just curious, from your perspective, what kind of metrics do you track that gives you the best insights on where your performance is today, and what areas do you need to improve in?
So a lot of that has to do with property management. So I want to look at retention. I want to have a large proportion of releases because new leases are expensive. And it also indicates that there's potentially an issue at the property. So I want to make sure that people are staying, and I want to make sure we're doing things for them. Like, for example, one place we had a community day. There's some evangelists that came out and they turned it into like a carnival, and people just loved it. That was great. We're going to put out some pies this year for Thanksgiving. So those are some things that I do that feeds into that metric. I also want to keep track of occupancy. If we're not getting people in quickly, what's the deal? Do we need to lower the rents? Are rents moving backwards? Did we get too aggressive with the rents? And what's the occupancy in my market? We should be at or exceeding that. Those are a few things I like to do, but expenses are also huge. And regardless of whether I'm doing the bookkeeping or someone else is, I want to get a very close handle on what's going on. And what I like to do is take a sort of a horizontal analysis. So in accounting, when you look at, say, month by month, do you see a month where something kicks up a lot? Hey, we had a lot of repairs and maintenance this month. What happened? Okay, there was a fire in a unit. Okay, if it makes sense, move on. But you got to keep asking those questions, because when you see things tick up and it doesn't make sense, then you've got to go back and take a deeper look. You can also do sort of a vertical analysis and just see like what percentage are each of my expenses each month. And when you see that kick up, what sort of things might that indicate. So once I'm running a deal, I look very, very closely at the accounting and at our retention metrics.
Yeah, those are great insights. It just gives you a much firmer footing for those conversations with your property manager, and making sure that they're aligned with you, and it helps you communicate where your interests and priorities are as well. I mean, just looking at the things that they should be looking at too.
Absolutely. And thank you for the question. And I hate to add it, but I think we got to kind of head into we used to call it the lightning round, but I call it the seven. These are the questions that I ask every guest, rapid fire. All right, John, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. If you could be known for only one thing, what would it be?
Honesty and integrity.
What's the greatest lesson in leadership you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Uh, to to uh, to listen, to be talking to people who work with you and for you, and other stakeholders, and ask open-ended questions and listen to their answers.
What personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
Uh, my ability to uh, dial in technical issues, numbers, and being able to translate them to real life outcomes and experiences.
All right, so let's take it up a notch. Here's my random question stack. So just tell me when to stop cutting this deck, and we're going to take
Oh
something.
no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Ready when you are.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. What posters did you have in your room when you were young?
Uh, my favorite musical group was Chicago. I would say I had Chicago a poster, one or at least one or two Chicago posters.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's brings back memories. So I had all kinds of rock posters on my wall. So
Yes.
the good old days. So can you name a book that's helped to forge you as a leader and entrepreneur and tell us why?
One of my favorite is Living with a Seal. It's a book written by let's see, I think it's Jesse Itzler, and about David Goggins. And since the book was written, they both become much more famous, and so it's out there a lot, but it wasn't quite that way when the book was written. And then it's insights from this guy who was he's quote just a Marine, but he's such a an insightful and powerful person, who was in the Marines and or Navy SEALs, I should say. I'm sorry, I apologize for anybody who is sensitive about the difference. He's a Navy SEAL, and he has insights on overcoming obstacles in your mind and getting you to push to do more than what you thought you could do. And it's applicable for your physical fitness, but also in your real life in general. And Jesse Itzler, at the time, was a very successful person. He's much more successful today, but he was it was clear in his book that he learned a lot from David Goggins, and I still do today.
All right, great tip, book tip there. I like it because I don't know what I'm going to do if somebody recommends the Purple Bible again. But
Yes.
Okay, so can you give us a tip or trick that real estate investors can implement in their business today?
It is developing your own underwriting model. If you've got any degree of skills with a spreadsheet, and you really need to in real estate today, you don't have to be a spreadsheet pro, but take some classes. There's a ton of free online classes for Microsoft Excel, at least. That's the one that I use. Learn the spreadsheets, then take the underwriting models from your favorites. There are a lot of free versions or nominal cost versions out there from experienced industry gurus, people who teach and train, and these are great underwriting models. Then develop one of your own. Take the concepts and ideas from it, because that really helps you understand the issues with your deal, the strengths and weaknesses of an offer that you might make.
Couldn't agree more. I think you got to stay in your lane and know what value you provide. Decide what role you're going to play, but everybody should be an underwriter to some extent. I wonder if we can go for a bonus, because I've heard you speak eloquently about the importance of really knowing your neighborhood. And could you say a couple words about that? The importance of, and how do you do that?
Yes, there are lots of ways of finding that out. I mean, I learned early on when I sold properties down the street. I mean, half an hour away from me, I bought properties that were 3 hours away. And so my job changed from managing the property to managing a property manager. And once I was doing that, I was in conversations with them, I realized I could buy anywhere in the US. I didn't have to drive to the property. And so then I started looking around, and it's like, you got to find an emerging market. You got to find a market with various attributes. And once you do, you're looking for things about the neighborhood. You want to learn as much as you can beforehand about the neighborhood. You have to know what kind of homes and businesses are around it. You have to know what's being going on development wise around it. You can learn that from other people, property managers and real estate brokers in the market. You have to learn a lot about it, the demographics, cost of housing, income levels, population growth, job growth. There are online resources for all of this, of course, but and then you really have to visit it. You have to be showing up and driving the area and learning what's going on around there. that's the neighborhood aspect. There's a lot of other things that you need to look at before deciding to buy a particular property. Like, what are the rents nearby and compared to the rents of this property? But getting to know that as much as you can online and then making a visit, I would say there are the key principles there.
Excellent. Now, can you send us out with a quote to help forge our listeners as leaders and entrepreneurs?
One of my favorite is, and I don't even know who said it. It's probably said in various ways, but it goes, everything you want in life is on the other side of fear.
Beautiful. And now, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out to John Todderud? Internet, email, carrier pigeon, smoke signal?
Yeah, certainly my email works, John, JOHN, at cardinaloak.com. You could also go to learnaboutapartments.com, and connects with my website and Linktree and all that other good stuff.
Excellent. Well, this was a great, wide-ranging discussion. I want to thank you for taking your time to share your knowledge and experience with our audience.
Thank you, George. Appreciate the opportunity.